I'm also moved by it.
Yes. Yes, tell me about that. What moves you?
You talking to me?
Welcome back to the Pretentious Film Bros podcast, where it is our mission to break down the stereotypes and build connections through film. I'm Nolan Jones, joined here with my co-host Brady Odom, and we have a special holiday Christmas episode for you today. Now, we wanted to take this time and recommend to you some Christmas movies that maybe you have or haven't seen that you could check out during this festive season, but we wanted to do it in a little bit of a different format. So what we've done is we've found two movies that are not traditionally seen as Christmas films, and two movies that we enjoy, but the other one of us isn't really the biggest fan of. And what we're going to do is we're going to defend these movies both to each other and then to you, the audience, as well today. So we're going to start with the two movies that we picked that are non-traditionally seen as Christmas movies. And Brady has gone ahead and he has picked the classic Orson Welles film, Citizen Kane. And I have picked another classic film from director Billy Wilder, The Apartment. Now you're probably thinking these are not Christmas films. They don't come up in a top 20 Christmas film list of all time, but we're here this morning to present to you the case that these are not only indeed Christmas films, but good Christmas films that you should consider adding into your rotation this season. So up first, Brady is here to defend Citizen Kane. He's taking the stance that it is a Christmas film, and he's going to lay out his reasons why. And then I'm going to come back and explain why I would say it's not necessarily a Christmas film, but a film that's best just any time of the year. So Brady, the stand is yours. Defend for me Citizen Kane as a Christmas movie.
So Citizen Kane is not a movie that needs defending in its quality, right? That's not the point of this conversation. That's not the point of the conversation with The Apartment. These are not movies that we're seeing as good or bad movies. These are just movies that are they best served at Christmas time? And so I have a number of reasons why I think Citizen Kane really works well at Christmas time. The first reason, and I think it's important when you're watching any Christmas movie, is towards the very beginning of the movie, when we are first introduced to Charlie Kane, to Charles Foster Kane, he is playing out in the snow. And this really matters because this is hinted at in the beginning of the film, and it's talked about at the end of the film, that this is a time in Charlie's life when he was very young, and he is being taken away from his mother, and he's going to go live with these like-minded individuals for himself as he gets older. But you see that he is now being taken away from this space where he is no longer going to be served, and he's no longer going to be seen as a kid anymore. He's being forced into this just person role, which I think is a really big deal for a kid to have to experience that at such a young age. And so while that does serve the thematics of the film, it also serves a Christmas plot. And the reason I think that it serves a Christmas plot is because, one, you have the feeling of it being Christmas time, right? You have this feeling of there's snow on the ground. He's playing with the sled, which, if you've seen the movie, you know is a very important piece and artifact to this movie. And the last words he utters are the name of this sled, which is, if you've seen the movie, or if you haven't, you probably have even heard the term Rosebud. And so when you're seeing him at a young age, it's setting it up. It's in the wintertime. It doesn't have that spring or summertime feel. It's definitely in the heart of winter. I want to say it happens on Christmas Eve is whenever this initial event takes place. Another reason I think that it serves well as a Christmas movie is because I think it serves well as a bleak Christmas movie. The way I actually kind of see it is it's sort of a movie you could double feature, in my opinion, with another movie that is definitely seen more traditionally as a Christmas movie, but is not necessarily locked into being a Christmas movie either, is It's a Wonderful Life. And I think it is sort of the nightmare version of It's a Wonderful Life. And it's sort of as if Jimmy Stewart or, Charlie Kane has never got to actually find joy in their life. It is definitely one I would say in order. You definitely need to watch Citizen Kane first in the Christmas season and then watch It's a Wonderful Life so you don't leave feeling completely distraught or hopeless. Whether people would argue which one is a better movie, and I would say that argument is definitely very valid, especially after rewatching Citizen Kane. I still have a preference for It's a Wonderful Life, but I could see how people would say that Citizen Kane is a better movie. Of course, I could see that. It's Citizen Kane. But I thought, it's interesting because at the end of It's a Wonderful Life, and again, it's one of those movies it's almost 80 years old now. So if you're like, I was going to watch it tonight, like, no, I don't want to hear there will be some spoiler talk for an 80-year-old movie. But he finds this joy to live again because he's shown what his life would look like if he wasn't in it. Right. And that's because there's a very adult topic in that movie which is so funny that's something they highlight so prominently in It's a Wonderful Life, and you show it to your kids every year. And you're like, that is a pretty dark, it's a dark subject matter for sure. And so without talking about what that is or saying what that is, obviously you can put two and two together. What would life be like for all of his people without him in it? And it's shown for him because of the influence he's had in these people's lives, it would be positive. Their life would be better with him in it. For Charles Foster Kane, that argument is maybe not as solid. It's maybe not that their life would be better or worse because he's in it or not in it. But at the end of Citizen Kane, and at the beginning of Citizen Kane, really, Charles Foster Kane dies. And there's this gathering of all these things of what makes a man, right? And it's tremendously set up as a quality movie because in the very first 20 minutes, you're doing this overview of his life through the newspaper, right? Through headlines. And it's like, this is who he was. He was a cheater, but he was a politician, but he was this and he was that. And you're like, but that doesn't really headlines of a person. That's not who they were. So for Charlie to experience this life of influence during this, I would say, cold life that he lives. It starts in the cold and it ends in the cold. I think serves a Christmas plot really well. And like I said, a sort of bizarro or nightmarish element of It's a Wonderful Life, which I think it would pair really well with. Not because they're both just high quality movies, but because you can see your influence in people's lives can be negative and it can be positive. And I think as a double bill, that would really serve its purpose more, and it wouldn't feel out of place. It would not feel like, oh, I'm watching a clearly summertime movie, or I'm watching a movie that doesn't exist in Christmas time at Christmas time. It doesn't really go well together. First of all, they came out within a couple years of each other. They're directed by two greats, Frank Capra and Orson Welles, and they have amazing leading men. You have Orson Welles, right, as Charlie Kane, and you have Jimmy Stewart, right? So it's like these people they're incredible actors, and so they anchor the film really well, and it's about them. It's about those men, right? And so, well, I think that those are some reasons why they make a great double feature, but I also think they're part of the reason why they make a good Christmas film. And so, another reason I think that it makes an excellent Christmas movie is the theme. I think that you have this moment at the very beginning of the film where Charlie is taken from his mom. And for the rest of his life, it's even highlighted later on, he's trying to fill that hole, that missing piece of his mom not being there, of his mom allowing this to happen to him. and it all takes place. It all goes back to that Christmas time. And I think that for us in our lives, we usually see Christmas time as this warm, fuzzy, like get together with the family. Like, yeah, there's going to be some dysfunction, but at least we all love each other and people are kinder to each other this time of year. But for Charlie, that wasn't what it was. It was a reminder of when he was taken. And I think for some people that is what Christmas is like. Christmas is not this, it's not always this warm, fuzzy feeling where we get to sit around the fire and open presents and talk with family and drink eggnog and just have a good time. It's not that for everybody. And so again, going in hand with that sort of bleak Christmas view, which you'll definitely talk about, Nolan, a bleak Christmas movie. It's not out of place for Christmas movies to also be bleak. And so I think that when the argument could be made that, oh, well, it needs to be centered around this, it needs to feel like this, it needs to have this vibe. No, it doesn't. It can be a hard watch. And Citizen Kane, for as well made as it is a hard watch. Watching this man, these people try to figure out who he was. They're trying to fill in this missing piece. They're trying to fill in Rosebud, right? It's just it is so well done, and I think that when you're watching it, there's so much sadness in that. But then again, if you double bill it with It's a Wonderful Life, you feel a lot better, right? You feel that the other side of it. And so I also think that the last reason I'll give is I think that there is a lot of warm clothes in this movie. There's a lot of coats, there's a lot of sweaters, there's a lot of fires, and I think that is something that shows you that it's taking place in a more cold, in a colder time. And I think that even just sets you in the mood for watching something in the colder seasons. Now, of course, you could say, well, I could watch that in January or February, and it would be just as cold then. But I think even just the coldness highlights that Christmas time feel. But compared with everything else, put in context with everything else, it really serves well as a Christmas movie. And so I hope that was enough to follow. I hope that was enough to sort of like get your rebuttal ready of why I think Citizen Kane serves really well as a Christmas movie. I'm sure there could even be other things that I think could serve it well, but those are like the main points that I think make Citizen Kane a better viewing experience during the Christmas season versus any other time of the year.
Okay, fair enough. You've definitely given me some things to think about as I'm putting this rebuttal back to you in my head. Some things that maybe I didn't think about before as I was watching the movie in preparation for this conversation. I think to argue the merit of Citizen Kane is really a fool's errand. I mean, right? We're not here to do that. You mentioned that. And Citizen Kane is a movie that comes down to a matter of preference. You can't argue really on the technique. You can't argue on the filmmaking skill. You can't argue on the script or the dialogue or the way the story is told. You might be able to argue on the story pacing, but again, all that kind of stuff is very personal opinion. It's a matter of taste. It's, can you sit for 2 hours and watch this character, this Charles Kane, who started out a sweet, innocent child and started really as a kind of a good man who wanted to look out for those that were overlooked? Can you spend 2 hours watching his downfall? The spiral into the lonely old, here's another connection for you, I'm doing your job, an old Scrooge, whose main goal in life is to collect more. Can I get more money? Can I get more statues? Can I get more things? Can I get more power? Do people respect me like I believe they should? Do people fear me? Which is an interesting way to think of. I hadn't thought about that until I started talking, which is great. Thinking of Charlie Kane also as a Scrooge type, if we want to make that Christmas connection, because that's definitely there. However, I'm going to stop doing your job now and go back to doing mine.
That makes sense.
There's no arguing that Citizen Kane is a great wintertime film. I mean, as you mentioned, it starts in the snow. It starts with the sled. It starts with the snowman. it's cold throughout. The coats and the fires and the scarves and all of those things, which also just play into the feel of the movie as Charlie becomes just this very cold individual.
Mm-hmm.
The coats get heavier and the hair gets less. The
Yeah.
fires get bigger. The fireplace is huge that he's got in that house when he's finally created his Xanadu. So it's a perfect wintertime film. There is no argument here about that. As a Christmas film, I don't know that you've convinced me. And
Okay.
I'll go back through your points one by one and we'll work
Okay.
through it because that's what we're here to do, debate. And then I'll give you a final word. And then that'll be that. So Playing in the Snow as a Boy. Great winter theme. Great Christmas theme. I don't remember if it takes place on Christmas Day or even in December or not. I don't think the movie actually tells us that.
Yeah.
I think it does set up to have that very Christmassy, snowy feel. Unless, of course, you're somewhere like Oklahoma where you don't ever get snow on Christmas. It's usually January or February.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, there's no white Christmas for me.
Mm.
If you're in Texas, you might not get snow at all. So that would be a little more unfortunate. But if you're up north during the wintertime, Citizen Kane is a banger.
Mm-hmm.
Up in Chicago, up in New York, perfect. Anyway, so working on the snow, great wintertime set. I don't know if it really, for me, solidifies the Christmas aspect. Although it does have that Christmas time feel because you always think snow, you always think snowman, you think frosty, you think Christmas. Great place to start the argument. Your second point, as a bleak companion piece to It's a Wonderful Life. It's hilarious to me that you brought up It's a Wonderful Life because I'm going to be bringing up It's a Wonderful Life here in a couple minutes in lieu of The Apartment. Because those two movies felt strangely similar to me as well. But anyways, back to the bleak It's a Wonderful Life. That's the best argument. I really have a hard time pushing back against any of that. We see in Jimmy Stewart's character in It's a Wonderful Life, a man who has always done good and almost is kind of tired of doing good because doing good where's it got him? He's struggling. He's out. It's hard. And it's not gotten him anything, and he's tired. Whereas you look at a character like Charlie Kane, and it's doing quote-unquote bad that has got him to be worth millions. But in all of his doing good and becoming worth millions, he does not have what Jimmy Stewart does have, and that's people that love him. People that surround him, people that will miss him, people whose lives are worse when he is not there. And worse, you could argue for some that's not worse, it's just different. For others in the film, you can definitely argue it's worse. Again, this movie's like 70 years old, so we're just talking spoilers here for all these films. But Jimmy Stewart's brother dies because he's not there to save him. He drowns as a boy. Inarguably, not only is his brother's life worse, but all the people that his brother would go on to save and to defend in the war later in the film, their lives are completely altered because he's not there. But then you take a character like Charlie Kane and you look at the relationships that he's had. You look at the relationship with the man who brought him up, who became kind of his parent after his parents sent him away. His life was not better. In fact, it was made a lot more complicated in a lot of ways by Charlie Kane. You could argue deservingly so or not. That part's up for debate. And then you think of Charlie's friends, and you think, well, that's going to be great. These are two people that love Charlie, and in a sense, they really do. They love Mr. Kane. But then his friend Jedediah loses his job. He's fired by Kane years on down the road. To where when we see him as this kind of old man in this nursing home and he's recounting this story to the reporter, he doesn't seem to have any favorable things to say about Kane at all. All the relationship and the favor that he once held for this man and the admiration he once held for this man, it's gone. It's faded. And then you think of, I forget exactly what they gave the title of the man, but the man who was kind of his supporter. He supported Charlie Kane. He was kind of his manager of sorts. He worked at the newspaper. He doesn't have a lot of like negative things to say about Kane towards the end, but he's not overly positive with him either.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you've got Kane's two wives and his son, who we never see up for that one scene that he's in,
Mm-hmm.
who they don't have anything positive that they can say about Kane. It's just this man, if it was his way or it was the highway. There's a line in the movie where his second wife, she says, "You don't love me. You want me to love you.
Yeah, I'm glad
You
that you
want
said
me to
that.
love you on your terms."
Yep.
And that's what Kane is looking for that whole time. It's that missing piece of his life. It's that rosebud, that time when he really felt loved, where he had that innocence. So looking at the film, at Citizen Kane as a companion piece to It's a Wonderful Life is very interesting. And in fact, I think that's a very strong argument, because I think you've got two movies that take place during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, It's a Wonderful Life actually does take place on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
The bells ring on the Christmas tree and all of that. Christmas is very interwoven into the film.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Citizen Kane, it's just that winter feel kind of all throughout as the years and the decades of Kane's life go by.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got two films that are one that is considered a Christmas classic, even though it's not really a Christmas film in It's a Wonderful Life. And then you've got one that's considered a classic, but it's not really considered a Christmas film in Citizen Kane.
Mm-hmm.
But then putting those two together is an interesting argument to me and an interesting stance, because they do play as kind of a optimistic, pessimistic, the life of one good man, the life of a man corrupted by greed, a good man corrupted, and all of these things, how they play together.
Mm-hmm.
I would say makes a great double pairing. Makes a great, again, winter double pairing. I'm still not sure that's enough to give Citizen Kane the edge of a Christmas movie like we get with It's a Wonderful Life. And then looking at the theme of the film, this theme of longing, this theme of this hole in his life, this puzzle piece, as they say towards the end of the film, that's missing, that they can't quite figure out. This puzzle piece left by his mother. Because we get the feeling that his father wasn't a good man. We get that from the couple of minutes that we see him on the screen, but then we don't really know about the mother. She seems to be trying to do what's best, or what she believes is best for Charles Kane, even if we could argue it's not. But she seems to be doing what she believes is the best to give her son a chance. We get the feeling that she was always good to Charlie Kane.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to her to try to not have to go with this man. He runs to his mother for protection, not to his father. So taking that idea of feeling that he's always looking for that love that he lost maybe in that day from his mom. And this idea of Christmas not always being a warm, fuzzy time of life, but for some people who have lost, like Charles Kane, who lost his mother at a very young age and who has lost so much more than you could argue even that he's gained throughout his life. To look at it from that perspective of Christmas for a lot of people is a time of longing and a time of heartache. You've lost a loved one in the past year, or a marriage has come to an end, or a child is sick.
Mm-hmm.
You've got these things that when Christmas comes around, you're almost angry that Christmas is here, because it doesn't feel warm. It doesn't feel like It's a Wonderful Life. It doesn't feel like the end of a Christmas Carol.
Mm-hmm.
And you almost want something different. You need something different. And to look at Charlie Kane and Citizen Kane as a bleak kind of comfort Christmas film, or a comfort winter film for somebody who has lost something in the past year, who just kind of needs to sit in that loss for a moment. I think to recommend Citizen Kane on that account is a very strong recommendation, because you see not only a man that's lost, but a man that has let that loss consume him. And that's where maybe you could even say Citizen Kane's a warning. Things are hard and loss is really real and really tough. But when that loss turned into obsession for Kane to have and to try to find love and desire and appreciation in the ways that he did, it shaped him in a way that it seems to me at the end of Kane's life, with that utterance of Rosebud, it seems like it's filled with regret, with this sadness, with this, I wanted to be back there. And then, of course, you have the final shot of the movie where Rosebud is revealed. And again, revealing what Rosebud is right here now on this podcast. Rosebud is the name of his sled that you see in the beginning of the film that he's riding on, that he tries to push away the bank man with. He use it as a shield. That Rosebud is that innocence of a time when life was easy, when he was out playing as a Union soldier in the snow fighting the Confederates.
Yep.
And he's been longing for that childhood that he never got back. And all the collection and all the consumption and the greed and the power and the desire to be loved, it all came back to that moment of Rosebud. That moment of, that was the last time maybe Charlie Kane was happy ever. Truly, really happy and had that sense of joy. So yeah, looking at it from that theme of loss, and that wintertime loss, and the coldness of winter plays into that, right? And the heaviness of the coats, the end of the beautiful seasons, I guess, maybe for lack of a better word, where things are green and alive. Now in winter, everything is dead. Looking at it from that angle, again, a very interesting take of here's a Christmas movie that you could watch during the Christmas time that isn't warm and fuzzy, but that it engages with the loss. And it serves as a warning to not let that loss consume you in a way that drives you further away. Feel the loss, but then come back to let that loss shape you in a way into somebody that you want to be, not to totally consume you into someone you don't want to be. Again, I don't know if I'm just arguing your theme or actually arguing the merit of it as a Christmas film. I think that's an interesting way to look at it as a Christmas film. If you need something a little bleaker, if you need something a little more solemn during Christmas time or during the winter time, Citizen Kane would be a film that you could use during that time. And then, of course, the last point, the warm clothes, the coats and the sweaters, and all of that kind of coming together. Just kind of putting that cherry on the top of it. To me, that feels perfect for a winter movie. But again, connecting it to Christmas is a harder jump for me. I'm never going to argue against Citizen Kane being a winter movie or even a wintry time movie or a December time movie. However, I don't think that the coats and the fireplaces and the setting the mood of Christmas is enough for me to call it maybe a Christmas movie, or to defend it as a Christmas movie. So I've kind of responded to your points. I think for sure the companion to It's a Wonderful Life is perhaps the strongest argument for watching this movie at Christmas time, because I think that's a beautiful companion piece of the alternative. So I'm going to go ahead and let you have the final say. This is your film. This is your chance to finally to convince our listeners that Citizen Kane is best enjoyed during the December Christmas holiday.
Yeah, I appreciate you sitting there taking notes, listening to why I believe Citizen Kane does work really well as a Christmas movie. And you might disagree. Maybe you'll think about it, stew on it a little bit longer. I think there were even times at points where you were defending just the movie itself to yourself, the quality of it. And so just in some of the points you had brought back up. But I don't think, again, it's one of those movies that needs to be an annual rewatch at Christmas time. But I also, if somebody told me they did, at this point, don't believe I would bat an eye. I'd be like, okay, that is a very interesting take. And I think that I can see exactly why you would do that. And so for the people listening, I am a firm believer that Citizen Kane is best viewed in the Christmas season. And you've heard my points why, and you've heard Nolan's rebuttal, his beliefs, why he doesn't think that it qualifies itself as a Christmas movie and maybe more of just a chilly winter time film.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put a bow on the debate of Citizen Kane. Now, it's up to you all listening. What do you think? Were you convinced by Brady? Or are you more on the side of, nah, it's a great winter movie, but it's not really for me for Christmas time? Either way, if you haven't seen Citizen Kane and we haven't completely spoiled the movie for you through our little bit of a discussion, we would both, I think, recommend it as a film, if not anything more than just the status that it has in the film community, the reputation that it carries with it. It is a big film, just like Charlie Kane is a big man. It carries with it that reputation. So if you haven't seen it and we haven't completely ruined your taste for it, or if you haven't seen it and we have ruined your taste for it, it's still one that we would both recommend you should go check out. It's a very important film in film history, in the world of movies. So take some time whenever you watch it and go and check out Citizen Kane. So now I'm going to present to you my case for Billy Wilder's The Apartment and why it makes a great Christmas time winter season watch. And this was a movie that I remember seeing several years ago, and it was one of those Billy Wilders that I just instantly fell in love with. He's got several that I love. The other two I've actually talked about on this channel. The Apartment was the third one, and it was a really big one that I'd not seen since I first saw it. I think it's his funniest of perhaps all of his big four films. It's definitely his funniest of the two that we've mentioned previously on this channel, Double Indemnity and Sunset Boulevard. So The Apartment tells a story of a man who is, let me double check his name, because I know it and then I've forgotten it. Baxter. C.C. Baxter. C.C. Baxter works at this accounting firm. He's an insurance agent. He crunches numbers. He says, are you worth insuring? Are you too high risk of insurance? And he's very low on the totem pole type worker. He's a number in a company of, I believe they said it's like 13,000 or some insanely high number for a business in the 60s. He's a no-name. But he's got this apartment. And he's got this apartment where several nights a week, if not every night of the week, he rents out or he opens up to these higher ranking people in this company where he works to come and have all of their illicit affairs. Yep, you heard that right. Christmas movie with illicit affairs. Yeah. Not really helping my case right out the gate, but we're working on it and we'll get there. That's right. So C.C. Baxter, he's this no-name number man crunching numbers. He opens his apartment to, I believe, there's four high-ranking guys in the department heads that he says he schedules them into his apartment. They come, they do their thing, they're out. He comes home, he goes to sleep, he wakes up, he goes to work. Someone uses his apartment, and it goes over and over, and it's just this cycle. We catch him waist deep in this cycle. And he's using this as a chance. He believes, or he seems to believe, that allowing these managers and these higher office personnel to use his apartment to gain favors, to maybe build his way up in the company, to get more promotions throughout the company. And it works for him. And that's about all I'm going to say as far as the plot goes. I'll get to more of it later as I start bringing out points. But doesn't really seem like a Christmas movie based on that introduction. Man opens up his apartment for managers in his office to have their affairs. And it doesn't, for a large part of the movie, it's maybe not Christmas. The movie begins in late autumn, where it's chilly, it's rainy. Baxter actually gets a cold very early on in the movie because he gets locked out of his apartment in the middle of the night because one of his guys calls and he says, "Hey, Baxter, I got this broad. I need a place to take her." And he gets kicked out at like 11 a.m. in his apartment. He ends up locked out and he catches a cold.
PM, I think you mean.
Yes, 11 p.m. 11 at night. Woken up in the middle of the night, gets locked out, sleeps on a park bench. It's cold, jackets, fall leaves, rain, the whole shebang. But then the crux of this movie really takes place during a Christmas party at the office. So we've moved through the autumn. Baxter's actually, by this point, he's been promoted. He had the big boss has said, "Hey, I hear that you're doing this thing. I want in. I got some people I'd like to take to your apartment." And it turns out that the person that the big boss wants to take is this elevator operator by the name of Fran, who Baxter kind of has a little bit of a crush on. He doesn't know that this is who it is until later. He finds out all that kind of information. And I'm done talking plot because I'm starting to spoil way too much.
No, you're okay. Yeah.
Meaning to go into all that. But at this Christmas party, by this point, Baxter knows that Fran is the one that his boss has been taking to his apartment. And at this Christmas party, Fran finds out from the secretary, from the head boss's secretary, "You're not special." She basically tells her, "You're not the only girl. I was one of his girls. There were girls after me. There were girls before me. And he's just going to keep doing this. And you think he's going to leave his family, and he's not. He's not leaving." So it's really the whole film turns in this moment of this Christmas office party where Fran gets this information and she comes to realize what she already knew. He's not going to leave his family for her. She is just a piece of convenience for him. He calls her when he can. They get together for a fling. He goes back to his life, and at the end of the day, she's still just the girl operating the elevator. But she's stuck here. She can't help it. She loves him. Or so she tells us. So then this Christmas party changes everything. And Fran goes back. Fran ends up going back to Baxter's apartment with this boss that evening. They have their thing, and then he leaves. He leaves Fran at the apartment. And this is where I guess I do have to go into spoiler type talk to really get through the Christmas movie. This is where, as I was watching this film, that it reminded me of It's a Wonderful Life. Because you mentioned it in It's a Wonderful Life. We see their life without Jimmy Stewart because Jimmy Stewart tries to kill himself. He jumps off a bridge into the water because people will be better without him. And then he's saved by Clarence. The angel comes, he saves him, he shows him what life will be like. Well, Fran, just in this moment of desperation, having been abandoned on, I believe it's Christmas Eve, having been abandoned and left here at this apartment, she takes way too many sleeping pills and just tries to fall asleep. And then, thankfully, Baxter, who is out with another dame, he's out with somebody trying to forget Fran, trying to not think about her and her being at his apartment with their boss and all that kind of stuff. He finally makes it home. He finds Fran. He goes to his neighbor who's a doctor. He says, "Help me, help this girl." And he helps her. And then she survives. The doctor comes in. He gets her stomach emptied. They walk her through. They keep her awake. And she's fine. And then she spends several days. She spends Christmas Day with Baxter, kind of recovering. He feeds her. He cares for her. They play a game of gin rummy, or at least he tries to. She's really not interested in it. She's thinking about just everything that's brought her to this moment. She's reflecting through it and all of that. And they spend Christmas Day together. They spend the next day. She ends up going back to where she's living with her sister. And then the whole movie just turns. We've got New Year's where she's back with the boss. But then she realizes, why? Why am I here? He's never going to leave. He's never going to love me. She leaves him on New Year's Eve. She starts her brand new year on Baxter's couch, finishing their game of gym running. rummy and having a glass of champagne. So that's kind of the brush overall of the movie. That's where I saw Christmas is spotlighted in that party. The movie turns at the Christmas party. The kind of the humor, the finding out, all the craziness of the scheduling, everything changes, and Fran shifts fundamentally. She has that kind of Jimmy Stewart moment almost, where she realizes my life is stuck. It's not in the same sense of where Jimmy Stewart's like, I can't pay the bills, I'm going to lose my business and my job. She realizes I keep falling for married men. I keep going after losers. My life is stuck in this endless loop. I'm alone. It's Christmas Eve. No one loves me. Kind of like Charlie Kane in that sense. Mm-hmm. She's alone and she wants someone to love her. But all the people she chases are married men. Mm-hmm. And in that moment of desperation and loneliness, she's like, the world's going to be better without me. Much like how Jimmy Stewart is, the world's going to be better without me. I'm more of a benefit not being here than I am being here. Thankfully, just like Stewart is saved, Baxter comes home, he gets the doctor, they're able to help her. And it's that realization of, for me, where it really connects as a Christmas movie, it's this idea of a second chance. Mm-hmm. It's almost this idea of a new birth for Fran. And for Baxter, too. Baxter undergoes this shift in character, but it's really, in this moment, it's Fran. When she wakes up from all the pills being flushed out of her system, when she spends Christmas Day with Baxter, with a good man who's trying to be a good man. He does some shady things, but he's trying to be a good man. It's really that shift for Fran. It's this idea of a new birth, this theme of new life for her. Because we talk about Christmas and the idea of Christmas, the whole point of Christmas, what we celebrate the coming of a child. We celebrate the coming of Jesus. We celebrate the coming of salvation, the coming of a second chance, the coming of the potential for new birth for us as people. And this is that moment where Fran has that new birth, where she was dead, but then she's brought back to life, and she starts to see life in a new way. So for me, just counting outside of the fact that we have the Christmas party where the story turns, and then we have Christmas Day spent with Baxter and Fran, and we have the glimpse of Christmas at their boss's home where he's unwrapping gifts with his boys and celebrating Christmas very clearly on the screen, with the presents and the Christmas trees and the tinsel. It really, similarly to your argument with Citizen Kane, it comes down to that theme of second chances, of rebirth. Because once Fran comes back, that's a shift not only for Fran in her life, but it's that shift also for Baxter. It's that moment where Baxter realizes he can't be complicit anymore in allowing these office managers and these bosses to come and to use his apartment, because he realizes what other people in the movie have been telling him this whole time. He realizes that although he's not the one directly spiraling both his life and the lives of these women that are coming over to his apartment, he realizes that he's complacent in allowing this to happen. And in that moment, in that scene, in that episode with Fran, and after spending Christmas Day with her, he's like, I can't do this anymore. I don't care what kind of financial or power standing it gives me at the office. I'm not concerned about moving up to the 30-something floor. The big cedar paneled office with the large windows right next to the boss and the big desk and the secretary. It's not worth it. That's too high of a cost to pay. And it's that learning of, kind of like what Jimmy Stewart learns, it's those relationships in Baxter's life. It's that relationship with Fran. It's those feelings and that connection and that love that he's developing for Fran, that's worth more to him than all the money, than all the position, than all of the promotion that he can have if he just stuck with the status quo. And it's that shift for Fran, that rebirth. It's that rebirth for Baxter into becoming this good man that he's been called to by his neighbors and by other people surrounding him, saying, it's time for you to grow up. It's time for you to be a good man. It's time for you to be a better person. It's that shift in character that really captures that theme of Christmas, the theme of the second chances, the theme of finding that forgiveness, of finding new life and a better way of living, of putting the relationships and the love and the people over the possessions or the money or the positions. That to me is what really not only ties it in with It's a Wonderful Life, but cements it as that Christmas film. It's that theme, it's that feel of this is what Christmas is about. Of course, the fact that Christmas is scattered all throughout the second half is helpful. Certainly doesn't hurt any argument at all. And then, of course, when the film ends, it comes to New Year's. So we've gone through Christmas, we've gone through this rebirth, and now we're at New Year's Eve. It's a fresh start. And we have Baxter. He's leaving town. He's quit the job. It's not worth it. He's going for a fresh start. You have Fran. She's done with married men. She's here with Baxter. She's finishing their Jim Rummy game. It's a new start. And that to me is what really encapsulates what the heart of Christmas is. It's about rebirth. It's about new birth. It's about second chances. It's about a chance to be better than who we were. And then with the New Year's Eve, it's a chance to start over. So that's my defense for The Apartment as a great Christmas time movie. One that I'd forgotten had so much Christmas very bluntly in it until having the chance to come back and to rewatch it. So I present to you for your consideration The Apartment.
I appreciate all of the thoughts that you have on The Apartment being a Christmas movie. And I do think that on your argument, it's hard to argue against it. If your premise is Christmas is about second chances and Christmas is about all of these, the rebirth, the new opportunity, the fresh start, I would say that if that's what most people believe Christmas is about, then it's hard to argue against that thought. I personally don't believe that the premise of Christmas is about second chances. Now, I agree with you, obviously, on the tenets of Christianity and all of that, but I don't necessarily agree with Christmas being about second chances. I think New Year's is a stronger, compelling case for that. And you could argue The Apartment might be a better watched movie, like right after Christmas, like around that same time, but right before New Year's. But I would not argue like to get me in that understanding of what Christmas is about, get me towards that feeling of Christmas. I don't think The Apartment does that well enough that I could say, you know what, this is the movie I need to watch during the Christmas season, which just was our point, right? Where our debate was not necessarily to convince one or the other. Now, if we brought up points and the others thought about it, you're like, well, that's an interesting thought. And I would say the same thing even about Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane's not going to put you in that warm, fuzzy feeling about Christmas, but it has that sort of like I said, again, for the companion piece to It's a Wonderful Life, that darker side, that more bleak reality of, he even has that line in Citizen Kane, if I weren't really rich, I'd be a good man. Like, what, just my goodness, right? Like the self-awareness and even the criticism of the rich. But I think for The Apartment, the cold time, it would benefit from watching it in the cold. I watched it in July, and so that, it wasn't cold here, obviously, but I do think that it's an excellent movie. And if somebody watched it and they were like, you know what, this is a movie I'm going to watch at Christmas, I don't think I would sit there and be like flabbergasted. There's so many worse movies I could watch at Christmas, but I do think that if you were like, if somebody came up and said The Apartment is a movie I watch every year at Christmas time, I'd be like, okay. Not, I don't think I would. I don't think I would think to watch this movie every year at Christmas time. And maybe like even your argument for Citizen Kane being a better wintertime watch, I think I could say the same about The Apartment. Is it might just be a better time, even fall. Like you said, it begins in the fall, right? And I could see it happening at that. But my last point of rebuttal is Citizen Kane is not there isn't a fair mentioned in Citizen Kane, but the premise of Citizen Kane is not about a man who lets his apartment open for a bunch of men to have a bunch of affairs at his apartment. How Baxter ever slept in his bed again, I'll never know. I don't know why that man would put himself through that. And yeah, so I just think that it is. I think that the subject matter, well, I think Billy Wilder handles it with just incredible nuance. I don't think he's just gross and egregious. But I do think that the subject matter is one of those things that makes me think, I don't know. It's definitely more in that like Citizen Kane would be more in that Christmas lane for adults than it would be for like a movie you sit down and watch with the whole family, which I would never say the same thing about Citizen Kane. But yeah, I just think that for that Christmas time feel, it's very funny, which I think it's more lighthearted. Which a lot of Christmas movies tend to be more lighthearted, but I think that just because it is that, it doesn't make me feel like, you know what, I need to watch this in the Christmas season. And so I won't say that I'm entirely convinced, but if I watched it again at like around the Christmas time season, especially at night, I think I could be convinced that this could be a better movie watched in the Christmas season. But as of right now, as it stands, I would not say like this is a movie that we need to watch at Christmas time.
Yeah, and that was really our point with this whole discussion, right? I mean, when we came up with the idea of controversial Christmas, we
Mhm.
wanted to talk about these movies that maybe aren't necessarily Christmas movies, but maybe could benefit from a Christmas time viewing or of that nature. Because we could have easily gone with a movie like Die Hard, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you want to talk about controversial Christmas movie that you can argue one way or the other. Die Hard is an easy shoe-in. We could have gone with something like Gremlins and argued for Gremlins being a Christmas movie or not a Christmas movie. But we wanted to go a different route and look at some of those movies that maybe you haven't considered before,
Hmm.
that take place during Christmas or that have that feel of winter and Christmas and encapsulate some of those themes. So yeah, it's really that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to bring something controversial to the table. And I think with The Apartment, I would tend to agree with you. I actually thought originally I'd planned on watching this movie in November because I was like, The Apartment's more like a noir from what I remembered. And then as we were looking for films that could fit this discussion, this debate, The Apartment came up, and I was like, oh, I'd completely forgotten that the movie turns on at a Christmas party.
Hmm.
That it takes that the characters experience the most change on Christmas Day. That's when their lives really turn. That the movie flips, and that both Baxter and Fran start to step into a a better life. I guess you could argue would be a turn of phrase into who they want to be, who they always wanted to be all together. And even just to kind of put a bow on the discussion of The Apartment, you've got also the themes of love and of relationship, and Baxter, who is not really lonely, but he sees love and relationship as a way that helps him to get where he wants further in life, right? And then you've got Fran, who is lonely and who she just keeps falling in love with the wrong men, with
Hmm.
married men who are never going to be able to choose her back. So then when you think of the ideas of Christmas about being about love and relationship and family, I think maybe even that's a stronger argument than perhaps second chances when you look at the themes of love that The Apartment encapsulates. So that was just to kind of put a bow on that discussion. These are our two films that we present to you for your consideration of maybe an alternative Christmas time watch. For sure, a good fall, late, early winter watch. We would definitely have no problem recommending both these films to you for that. Again, if you haven't seen The Apartment or if you haven't seen Citizen Kane, these are two all-time American classic films by two of the greatest classical American directors and maybe two of the greatest American directors, just period, of all time. So we would recommend checking out both Citizen Kane and The Apartment and coming up with your own thoughts, letting us know. Does it feel like a Christmas movie to you? Is it really just a better wintertime watch? Would you be like Brady and turn it on in the middle of July and maybe have Christmas in July with The Apartment?
If it was a Christmas
Where would these movies fall for you? Let us know. Yeah, see, I just you helped my argument. I sure do appreciate that. I had to throw it in there and bring it up for you. But now we want to transition our debate. So we wanted to have the controversial Christmas in the sense of movies that people don't normally think about as Christmas films. But then we also wanted to have a controversial Christmas discussion about Christmas movies that we are big proponents of, that are very clearly Christmas movies. That's not the argument. But that we are big proponents of, but that the other is not a big proponent of. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just continue on with the mic and continue into the Christmas movie that I'm going to defend, that you're going to come back and you're going to tell me why it's not a good movie or why it's not high on your Christmas rewatch list afterwards. But the movie that I'm going to take is 1974's Black Christmas. This is the original. This is not the remake. This is one of the ones that kind of started it all. And when we came up with the idea of controversial Christmas, I really wanted to talk about this film. Because when I first saw it, I absolutely loved it. And when my wife watched it with me, we both saw it for the first time together. She cannot stand it. She thinks this is one of the dumbest movies. It just irritates her to no end. She hates the decisions the characters make. She hates the way that the film ends. It aggravates her so much that I choose to enjoy the Yuletide Fear alone, because she's like, nope, I'm not doing it ever again. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I get a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. So if you've not heard or you don't know anything about Black Christmas, just a brief overview. It takes place during a Christmas holiday at this sorority house where these college girls are, I don't know if stalked is the right word, but definitely harassed. They're harassed by this person who keeps calling them on the phone, leaving these obscene messages, just tormenting them, mocking them, all kinds of just nasty harassment. And they have no idea who this caller is. And they keep calling, and most of the college campus, most of everybody's gone home for Christmas. It's Christmas break. It's just these couple of girls that are left. There's a couple guys on campus that you see throughout Christmas. The students who are left behind, right, who don't really have home to go to, or maybe home is too far away, they remain on the campus. And the ones who have a place to go, they're already gone. And as the movie goes on, it goes from just these harassing phone calls to these girls start disappearing. And turns out, as all good slashers do, these girls are being murdered. And they don't know who the slasher is. They're trying to figure out who the slasher is. The film follows Olivia is the main girl who it follows. And it's as she and her friends are trying to figure out who's calling them, trying to get the calling to stop, trying to fight against all of this. So it is a holiday horror film to the max. It's one of the original holiday horrors, actually, as we were preparing for this conversation. I think it was like the third holiday
Second or
horror
third.
film, second or third, somewhere very early on. And this is going to be my biggest defense for this film. I like holiday horror. Most of it is not very good, but I like to check it out. I like to experience it. Other films I've checked out that fall in that genre, And in the Apocalypse, is a Christmas time zombie musical movie. It's actually quite a lot of fun. Then you've got films such as Better Watch Out, which is about a babysitter who undergoes torment from the kid and for home invaders that she's babysitting. Of course, you've got the Black Christmas remakes, which just watch the original. I haven't seen the remakes. You don't need to. Just stick with the original. You've got P2, which is about a parking garage stalker. You've got all these kind of holiday horror Christmas movies. And most of them, they're not good. I've seen a handful of them. They're not great. Some of them, like Anne in the Apocalypse, are enjoyable. Most of them are pretty meh. They're okay. They're goofy. They're fun. They're silly. They're not really scary. They're not really tense. The characters, you don't really get to really connect with them. They're just there. They're a horror movie set during the Christmas holiday. Black Christmas, when I first watched it, was none of that. It was not, okay, it's campy. It's a little campy. It has that as the holiday horror tradition. But Black Christmas is scary. There's a moment in this film that the first time I saw it, I'm not going to spoil the moment because it's so great. But I jumped and I shouted. Like, it scared me when this moment happened. And I was like, Christmas movies, Christmas horror movies are supposed to be goofy and campy and not really that scary. And when Black Christmas was over, I found a movie that was still campy, but it wasn't goofy. It's a very serious film. Maybe, Brady, you might argue to its detriment. It tackles some very serious topics, not only just with this harassing caller, but with the main character, Olivia, who has found herself pregnant and she's considering an abortion. And her boyfriend is a creative pianist, and he's struggling to either pass his final exam or to get into this college. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but he's having struggles creatively as a pianist with his exams. And then he finds out that his girlfriend's pregnant, and he doesn't want her to give up the baby. I mean, she doesn't want to have the baby, and there's all that drama inlaid to it. And it's a heavy film. And it takes itself seriously in those heavy topics that it addresses. And like I mentioned before, it's scary. It's got that one moment that made me jump, but then the rest of the film is incredibly tense, all the way up to the ending, where you realize, oh, we thought this was over, and like all good slashers, it's not necessarily over. But to me, it's one of those films where it's everything that a holiday horror nowadays is not. It is serious. It's a little campy because it's from the 70s. It's got that 70 horror slasher feel to it. But to me, that campiness doesn't detract from this film. In fact, it just makes the seriousness and the scares all that more prevalent throughout this film. The characters, the main character, Olivia, and the other girls in the sorority, they're people that when they start disappearing and when they start dying, you care. Or at least I cared, because I connected to these characters. They were more than just a stand-in. They were more than just a final girl. These were people that in Black Christmas, these girls feel like fully realized people. They each have very distinct personalities that separate them. You've got the wild one. You've got the conservative, I believe she might be Amish one. She's definitely from a very conservative religious background. You've got Olivia, who's kind of in the middle, and she's saddled with this pregnancy that she was unexpecting. You've got all of these girls in the sorority, they're so very different and so very individualized that they are people that you come to care about, and you care about what happens to them, and you care about their stories. And then you've got the sorority mother, who is just a hilarious mess, um, and crazy alcoholic mess of an old woman who's trying to keep it all together, but then she can't keep these girls under control. And then all of a sudden this caller starts calling these girls, and yeah, at this point I'm rambling. But the point is, everything that holiday horrors have come to be, Black Christmas is not. Black Christmas flipped that script for me, and I think that's why it's one that I keep coming back to. Because no, the scares are not the same the second time around. You know when those moments are coming. They don't jump you, they don't spook you, they don't make you shout and scream in fear like they do the first time around. But they're still so powerful. And the power for me in this movie comes in the way that these sorority girls are developed. It comes in the seriousness of the topics and the film and the way that it handles. It comes in some of the moments of humor. This is not an all serious movie. This is a holiday movie with college girls and boys doing and saying and being college girls and boys. There is humor to this movie, quite a bit of humor to this film. But I think just seeing it as one of the original holiday horror films, and to see it now, let's see, 74, so it's 51 years later now, since this film came out, and to me this film stands up. It stands the test. It's a very solid, not only holiday horror film and not only horror film, but just a solid film. It's got the tenseness, it's got the character relationships, it's got the themes of Christmas woven throughout, it's got the humor, it's got the seriousness. It's a film that all of it works for me. All the way from the technical aspects to the genre aspects to the entertainment aspect. It's one that I look forward to watching around Christmas time every year. And even if that means I have to enjoy it all by myself.
Well, thank you for sharing. I feel like that was a very solid overview of the film, solid understanding of what makes you really appreciate it, really like it. And I think it's also worth noting as we talk about Black Christmas. If you don't know this, maybe you do know this. I know you know this, but the director, Bob Clark, is also responsible for another, what a lot of people would consider a Christmas time classic, and that's The Christmas Story, like A Christmas Story. That is also just baffling to me, because I've only seen bits and pieces of Christmas Story, and I've now seen Black Christmas twice, and I have no idea how this man thought of both. And I think that is what is or thought to do both. They're both holiday films, but they're very much in different veins. You would watch them with very different groups of people. And I just find that really fascinating to me. So I just find that really fascinating. So I think that with Black Christmas, my argument here is not going to be arguing on the content of it being a Christmas movie. The title gives that away. If you can watch Black Christmas, I think, at more times than just Christmas, but it's definitely going to be best viewed in that scary holiday season. But so my argument against Black Christmas is in the quality of it being a decent Christmas movie or a decent film in general. And I want to say that when I first watched this film, I was more favorable on it. When I first watched it, I enjoyed it. I wasn't in love with it. I wasn't like, wow, I didn't have quite the head over heels approach that you kind of had towards it, where you're like, wow, that is a Christmas holiday classic, like holiday horror classic. And I wish I had, because a lot of people talk about really, really liking this movie. It's definitely become more of a cult classic. But my feelings towards it are not of it being a cult classic. for me, not being a cult classic for me. It is 100%, but for me, it's not going to be one I am excited to jump back into every year. And now I could rewatch it again. I don't think I would be opposed to rewatching it. But on this rewatch, there is just so much about this movie that, like your wife, frustrates me. But it might not frustrate me for the same reason as it does your wife. For me, it's because I see a lot of times in this movie where this movie is just like the scariest movie I've ever seen. And then it takes me so far out of it, either with its goofiness. There are some times where it's a little over the top on the goofiness for me. There's a word that they use that an officer takes down. And I don't know if you remember that word or not. I'll give you a hint. It starts with an F. It's a more gross word, I would say, and the officer doesn't realize what it is, and everybody else, the other officers, do. And I thought, that's kind of like that's funny, but it was funny the first time they mention it, and then they talk about it again, and then again. And it's not that it grosses me out. I just am like, it just felt like you guys are playing the same joke over and over again, and I'm kind of burnt out on it. And there are other moments of silliness that I'm like, okay, and this maybe is unintentional, but it felt to me like Bob Clark on this movie figured out that a camera can zoom in. And what I mean by that is nearly every scene, especially if Olivia's in it, that camera is zooming in on her. It's not already close on her. It starts far and closes in. And I thought that to me, when I saw it for the first time, there's a scene, the very first phone call, which is the best part of the movie, in my opinion. The very first phone call where they're all gathered around it, and you get that glimpse of how every girl is sort of responding to the words on this other phone, on the other end of the phone. That part to me is the peak of the movie. And I think that moment, if they were able to carry that out, this could be a 5-star film for me because of the fact that a lot of these people are not incredible actors, but they fit a role really well, and they're really likable people. Because that's the thing, is you don't have to be a great actor to be likable. You can just be likable even if you don't have the chops. And I felt like that's what these characters brought. Now, there is one character that if she was never in the movie, I would 100% be a whole lot happier about it. And I'm sure you might know who I'm talking about. But it's the older woman that they all make fun of, and she has this insane drinking problem. Where part of the goofiness of this movie comes in the fact that she's hiding liquor in books, and she's hiding liquor in the toilet, and she's like fetching this liquor every time she can. And it just is a goofy element of the movie that I feel like doesn't serve the movie well. It feels very like stilted. It's like, I don't know that's what makes the movie. I don't think that makes the movie better. Now, some people might think, though, that's funny, and like maybe somebody who's just always fiending for a drink, and that is really funny to you. But to me,
I enjoyed her. That's the house mom.
Yeah.
I buy her.
Yeah,
I buy
it's
her
not that I don't buy her. I do buy her. She's just annoying. And I think with everybody else is like so likable that with her coming in and being as annoying as she is, that's where I'm like, and the main girl, I want to say her name's Claire, who goes missing first. She's the one who is, we'll just say she's missing, and her dad was waiting to meet her, and her dad, in his actions, he is such a confusing character. He's so baffling to me because he like is searching for her, but he seems so apathetic. He doesn't seem to care. Like, he doesn't have any reaction to anything that's going on, but yet he continues, like, he's going on this hunt for his daughter. But in the hunt, he's not upset. He's not scared. He's not happy. He's not excitable. He just walks through it like his actions prove to me that this is a dedicated father, but his acting proves to me that he could not care less about this woman. And that is like, what am I seeing here? Like, it just, that was a part where the acting like really caught me off guard. But I will say the highlight, because I did not remember this, but the main like detective on the case, I think it's not a sheriff, right? It's just a detective.
I think so.
Is the father from Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was like, I did not remember that. And I appreciated that was like, he plays almost the exact same style of character. Like he's still an officer trying to figure out what's going on with these missing kids or like college students or whatever. And I was like, that's interesting that he's playing a very similar role, but I did not remember that. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh wow, yeah, he's the father from Nightmare on Elm Street. In my opinion, a much better horror movie. But I do think that
against that.
I do think that Black Christmas has its moments. A phone call, there is a moment towards the end that really got me good. And I was like, oh, that is creepy. And it just is like, there's just so many moments where I feel like that this movie has like the makings of something great, but I don't think it sustains it. And I think it makes decisions because sometimes the camera work is really intentional, thought out, the POV shots, especially. I think that is a really brilliant use of the camera. And I think Halloween, whether intentionally or unintentionally, borrowed from that idea, borrowed from the POV, especially for the opening scene of Halloween. And I think that it is definitely a pioneer and it does deserve respect for the influence that it has. I just don't think that it's a movie that I'm like excited to show people, especially horror fans. I feel like that there might be some that are like, oh, I really, really like that. But for me, I just am like, I actually like the camp in this movie. The camp is like a highlight of this movie for me because I think that is when it works well. It's when he does the really unnecessary technical things that he does mixed in with the really incredible technical things that he does. The final shot of the movie is incredible. It's absolutely bewildering that that's how that movie ends. And the final moment is incredible. And I really appreciate it because it's sort of a credit sequence that works really well that I think not a lot of movies at that point, maybe some have done something like that, but it really stands on its own of being one of those like chilling ending scenes for a horror Christmas movie. And so I do think that it's you have the Christmas elements kind of woven throughout, but I don't think that for a quality movie for me on my end, I don't think that this is a movie that makes me want to go back every Christmas and sit down and watch it and feel that like Christmas time dread because I don't get enough dread from a movie. And when it's really good, it's really good. But when it takes me out of it, it takes me right out of it. And that to me is just such an unfortunate thing because I really want to like it. I sent you the picture. I set myself up for it. I was like, I'm ready to rewatch it. I'm ready to be proven wrong. I'm ready for this to be a staple. And the more I think about it, the more frustrated I get. And that's so sad because there's so much merit to that movie. But it will be a movie that sits in a really rare spot of a movie I really respect and really admire, really want to like. But in idea and in concept, it's a better movie than it is in execution, in my opinion. And so I appreciate that conversation about Black Christmas. I think that if there's anything left to add that you have that you're like, I want to say this, you're more than welcome. But if not, I'll go into my Christmas movie that I would defend as a good Christmas movie and a good watch at Christmas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Black Christmas really is. It's one of those movies that, much like other movies we've talked about on this channel, much like all cult classic films, it's one that you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. You may still respect it as you do, but you're either gonna love it and you're gonna be a big proponent of it, or you're just gonna think, no, that's not for me. Because it is a low budget, low talent, for lack of a better word, 70s slasher. Like that's just what it is. But for those of you that do watch it and you love it, you'll be like me and you'll really love it. And it will become a staple. This is a top 5 Christmas movie for me. It's lower than that on a horror ranking list. But it's somewhere in like the top 20. This is just one that everything in this movie works for me. I enjoy it. Am I going to say it's the best ever? No, of course not. Are there horror movies that are far better? Absolutely there are. But especially in the holiday horror category, taking all the holidays, taking Thanksgiving, taking Valentine's Day, taking Christmas, taking any holiday that there's been a horror movie made of. I'd have to check. Maybe, I don't know where it falls in comparison with April Fool's Day. I'd have to check. But taking all holiday horror movies, period, to me, Black Christmas from 1974 is it's the pinnacle. It's the one that I enjoy the most. It's the one that all of the campiness, all of the low budget, all of the low talent, for lack of a better phrase, it all works for me in this movie, that I can really just sit back and turn it on and enjoy it. When I want something alternative or controversial for Christmas time, Black Christmas is my go-to. So, and I'll leave it at that. I recommend it. Brady doesn't necessarily recommend it.
I do recommend it, but I just don't, because I think everybody, especially as a horror fan or a horror Christmas fan, I do think you need to watch this movie, form your own opinion. I hope you like it more than I do. Honestly, I really like this movie. I don't know how to explain it, Nolan. It's one of the few movies in my life that I really, really am sad that I am not in love with, because it seems right up my alley.
Yeah,
it seems like it's right there, and it is a well-made movie. That is what's frustrating. So it just is so. Oh yeah. Anyway, I really do think Black Christmas is a movie that could be seen as something that everybody really likes if they're able to get past the issues I have with it. If you're a horror fan, you will like it. Not everybody. When I say everybody, I mean in the horror community. I don't mean don't show this to your grandma. But unless your grandma is, unless your grandma likes some scary movies, but I would really not recommend Black Christmas for them. But I would recommend it for people who are interested in scary movies or interested in holiday horror. I really think people could like it more. My movie that I'm going to defend, that I feel like mine is less of a, I wouldn't call it a cult classic. I would say a lot of people generally really like this movie. A lot of people know about this movie. A lot of people have seen this movie. A lot of people watch it every year. And that's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And Nolan is on the side that he just does not like this movie. And that, to me, is unfortunate, because I think National Lampoon's is one of those movies that I've watched it probably every year since I was too young to have watched it. And I think that Chevy Chase is, take him for what he is as a person. I think that as far as comedy movies go, he is sort of a national treasure. And I think that for Christmas Vacation, the older I get, the funnier that movie becomes to me. Not just because I'm understanding more jokes, but I am getting family dynamics a little bit more. And if you've seen Christmas Vacation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know about Cousin Eddie. You know about you know about the one-liners. You know the quotes. You know the fact that this man is really trying to carry Christmas on his back, and his whole family is just insufferable. But they are real. They feel like real family members. They feel like people you have met before. They maybe are your family members. Maybe they are wrapping up the cat and bringing it to Christmas because her mind is going, and they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance at the dinner table, right? Um, there's so many moments in this film that really are so iconic that even if you don't like it, even if you don't like the movie, maybe you could tell me if I'm wrong, Nolan, but even if you don't like the movie, you understand that scene, like it is an icon in Christmas movies. The cat blowing up through the ground is an iconic moment. The sled scene of him flying down the snow hill is an iconic moment. And whether you like it or not, whether you're like you find it corny, I could definitely see people finding it corny. But to me, it's one of those movies that has really, as a comedy, has stood the test of time. Do I think it is a fantastic movie? I don't think it's a fantastic movie, but I do think in order to get in the Christmas spirit, if you want a Christmas movie that you can watch and have on in the background or sit down and watch with hot cocoa or coffee or maybe some boozy eggnog, I really do feel like that this is a movie that should be watched every year. I think it has so many hidden jokes throughout and so many moments of just physical comedy that's really subdued. There's actually a scene where they're walking through the grocery store and they're talking about Christmas, and Cousin Eddie's talking about how they're not going to have the money for Christmas this year, and uh, Chevy Chase's character Clark puts in this thing of light bulbs, and immediately following that, Cousin Eddie grabs a bag of dog food and slams it right on top of the light bulbs. And it is a moment that you're like, if you're not looking for it, if you're like listening more to the dialogue, because they do it so natural. It's just a really subdued physical comedy bit that I had someone pointed out to me, and I watched it so many times. I was like, oh my gosh, I'd never noticed. He's so selfish. Cousin Eddie is just such a terrible person, but he's a good person, but he's a terrible person. And you have moments like that. You have the moment where they show up at the house at the very end and his wife is holding on to Clark in maybe a more compromised position. They're all told to freeze. And then the guy comes in and greets and she like extends her hand and shakes it, but then puts it right back in the compromised position. And I was just like, just little moments like that are so stupid, over the top slapstick that you have so many moments like that. And the most valid holiday crash out scene in any holiday movie that I've seen, that crash out of Clark when he finds out that his Christmas bonus is nothing but Jelly of the Month Club. And Eddie famously says, "The year that keeps on giving all year round, Clark." Just like, oh my gosh. It just is it's so funny. And even just thinking, like, the reason I love this movie is like, you talking about Black Christmas, like, maybe even just giving you goosebumps just talking about it. The fear of that movie, like, just kind of like burrowing under you. It's the same reason I love Christmas Vacation for the comedy aspect. Just thinking about the one-liners, just thinking about Clark's reaction, thinking about Cousin Eddie. They're all insufferable. And that's the thing, too, is nobody in that movie is a good person. And that is what makes that movie so funny to me. No, there's nobody to root for. Of course, you're rooting for Christmas, right? But you're there to just laugh at these morons. And that's what is like so funny about it. It's like a mean-spirited, lighthearted Christmas movie. And I think for me that is like one of those things where they find that balance and they land it. They do it really well. Of course, there's as technical aspects go, as like formal like filmmaking goes. I wouldn't say it's up there as like, wow. I would say Black Christmas is a better like filmmaker's film for sure. If you're watching it to learn about how to make a movie, I would recommend Black Christmas. If you're watching it because you want to watch a Christmas movie that is just more enjoyable, although I think Black Christmas can be enjoyable, but I would say that National Lampoon's does it really well too. And so that's sort of my reasoning and opinion for why I think Christmas Vacation is a great Christmas watch.
Yeah, well, you mentioned right off, kind of off the bat, the only part of that movie that I found funny. And comedies are tough with me, especially slapstick comedy. They don't tend to land as strongly as like awkward situation comedy or just this is the way life is. And sometimes it's just really funny comedy. Um, but the only moment in that film that made me laugh that I thought was truly funny was where you mentioned the cat blowing up.
Mm,
That moment had me laughing like crazy. I thought that was the highlight pinnacle of the movie.
mm.
Uh, the rest of it, it was just like you mentioned, Clark and his family, cousin Eddie. They're all so terrible.
They are.
And the moment that I think of that always comes to mind with me for this movie is when Clark is out shopping for Christmas gifts, and I believe he's shopping for his wife, and he's with his son,
Yeah.
and they have the girl at, is it a perfume stand or is it a jewelry?
It's a, I think it's a perfume stand. I
I
always get
thought it
that
was
mixed up
too.
too, though.
Anyways,
It's funny
it's
that you brought that
something.
up because I never can remember.
Yeah, it's something of a gift that his wife would enjoy. So
Yes.
perfume or jewelry or something. And his line, the line that Clark has, he's going on and he's getting all sweaty and nervous because this girl's really young and really cute and quite exposed. And he has this line where he goes, "It wouldn't be Christmas if the stores were any more hotter than they are." And I was like, that to me is the epitome of who Clark is. And just,
Yeah.
I guess, as a person, I'm just so disgusted by him that it's really hard for me to enjoy the film.
Yeah.
I can appreciate those that do. There are people in my extended family that they love this film, that they think it's the
Mhm.
greatest Christmas film of all time, that it's a classic that they've got to watch. My wife and I are not those people. We watched it last year for the first time, and we're like, that's enough for us. We have checked it off the list. Never again do I have to sit through
Mm.
that mess. Um, so yeah, it's just one that I think it was all the characters were so terrible and so unlikable, and especially Clark. I was like, Clark is a horrible person. He's a horrible husband. He's a horrible father because he's hitting on the girl right in front of his son. Not subtle at
It's
all.
so
And the
baffling.
son's like,
Like,
"Hey, Dad, what about Mom?" Um,
well,
it's
because she
funny
shows him.
talking about it. I'm sitting here laughing with you talking about it, but it's just I was like, I can't do it. I
I
can't
think,
spend another hour and a half with this guy
and
because it's
I
just so
understand that.
painful.
Like, I understand not wanting to spend time with him, but he's so funny, and like, it's not. The point of the movie is not to glorify Clark, and I
No,
think that
that's good.
that's what I think they do really well. Is they are just painting a portrait of and the other thing is too is it's a movie mixed in with like a saga of sorts
Mhm.
for the National Lampoons, right?
Right.
And so you have the European Vacation, you have Vacation, you have Van Wilder, like you have those National Lampoons like movies. Clark Griswold isn't in all of them, but it's seen that Clark is not a good person,
No.
right? And so that to me is like something when you know that and you understand that, it's like, yeah, I understand. He's terrible. He's overcome with lust in front of his child, and it's like, buddy, like, come on. But he does. But it just is so unserious of a movie
Mhm.
that it's like to nowadays. I feel like if people tried to remake this movie,
Oh, it would be terrible.
it would no one would watch it and they
Mhm.
would be so offended, and it's like, but thankfully the movie's already made and we can sort of grandfather it in, and it's like, oh yeah, we can watch this and laugh at these ridiculous jokes and this horrible husband father.
Mhm.
And but you see later on too, not this is not in defense of Clark at all, but his wife is not a good wife either. She's
No,
mean to
they're
him.
all terrible.
He's not
They're
a
all horrible human beings.
They're all terrible people. And you realize that the neighbors, even though they're the most obnoxious, they're like arguably the only normal people in this movie. And they have every right to be as frustrated with the Griswold family as they are. And people like every year, you're always like making fun of Margot and Todd. And it's like, but they have valid crash outs when they're like throwing a freaking ice thing flies through their window into their home.
Yep.
So it's like so I understand not liking it because of who Clark is as a person. If you can't get over that, there's no way you could like that movie, right? And I think that's where it's like maybe as a kid watching it, it sort of desensitized it to you because you're not sitting there thinking about what a quality man Clark is. You're laughing at the cat blowing up, or you're laughing at the cat food in the Jello, or you're laughing at like the obnoxiousness of the family coming in.
Right. And that's
the lights and plugging the lights in. Like you're as a kid, that's what you're paying attention to. It's only when you get older that you realize Cousin Eddie really is something special. And if there's one-liner I would leave with everybody from this movie is it's 100% the scene where they're sitting at the dinner table and they have cut the turkey open and it is just disgusting, right? And he's talking to the kids, and he tells his niece and nephew, he's like, "Hey, like," or I guess his younger cousins is essentially what they would be. But he makes a comment of, "Hey guys, I heard they just said on the news they saw Santa Claus flying over in New York." They're like, "Oh," and Cousin Eddie, who is an adult, is sitting there, and he goes, "You serious, Clark?" Like the baffling belief of this grown man believing what Clark is saying is so ridiculous because he delivers it with so much sincerity that it just is hard to like not laugh at how much he really is like maybe believing what Clark just said despite its ridiculousness.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate the conversation on Christmas Vacation. If you have any more bones to pick with the movie, I'll allow you to close out on those, but then we can send the people on their way.
Send the people on their way. That sounds like a good plan. And a big part of it too is kind of like you mentioned, you grew up on Christmas Vacation. I did not. I saw it the first time as an adult, well seasoned with movies and Christmas movies and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So it's harder for a movie like that is so much rooted in the nostalgia of Christmas Vacation, like Christmas Vacation is, for it to just come in as an adult. So I'll grant it that. But on that note, I think, as you said, it's time to send the people on their merry way. We hope that you all enjoyed this discussion. We know nothing was seemingly accomplished. Neither one of us changed on either thinking it's a Christmas movie or thinking it's a good Christmas movie. But we wanted to sit down. We wanted to have this discussion. We wanted to give you something for the holidays coming up. Maybe some movies you hadn't considered, maybe some films you hadn't seen. And we just wanted to have a discussion back and forth with each other and with ourselves. As we do every week, we ask that you would just continue to check us out, continue to go ahead and click that subscribe button. That way you don't ever miss an episode. We've got a lot more fun stuff planned up. We're already looking into the new year for January, what's going to come up. We've got one more wintry time episode coming up for you in the future, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff planned down the pipe. We continue to encourage you to just check out other film podcasts, check out Film Spotting, watch some of your favorite Christmas movies. You know, there's a lot we could have talked about. There's some we mentioned here today, like It's a Wonderful Life, like National Lampoons. There's others that we just don't have the time to mention. There's the Charlie Browns, there's the Grinch, there's the Santa Claus. All of those classic Christmas movies that we love that really get us into the Christmas and holiday spirit. We are wishing you guys a wonderful holiday and a wonderful Christmas with your family. Hopefully it's not as bleak as Black Christmas. Hopefully it's not as crazy as National Lampoons. So with that, we wish you a Merry Christmas, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thanks for listening.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I'm finished.